Welcome to the Realty Check. I'm NickMelillo, I'm your host, and today we are going to be talking about buyers. Specifically, we're going to answer this question. Are you even ready to buy? Or are you ready to buy and you just don't think so? So we're going to kind of go over what that means, what it means to be ready to buy, and how to kind of answer that question on your own. And then I got a few messages over the last couple of weeks from some of the videos I've posted and a lot of comments from clips from my videos that I want to address and kind of answer some questions and that kind of thing. So we're going to do that later on in the video. But for now, I want to go over, are you ready to buy? So without further ado, I'll see you on the other side. So today's episode of the Realty Check is brought to you by Brainwave Entertainment, my entertainment company hosting trivia and karaoke around the greater Philadelphia, greater Wilmington, Delaware area, including Gridiron Pub in Aston, Pennsylvania, La Pizzeria Metro in Wilmington, a home base in Wilmington, and a few other locations, as well as private events. So if you are interested in any of those, follow brainwave.entertainment on Instagram. Look it up on Facebook. You'll see it. Logo looks like this. And then we're good to go. Okay, so today's episode, some people swear that they're ready to buy, and then we get into the numbers, and they are not. They have no business buying anything, let alone a house. They are not ready to buy a car. They can't even afford to buy a cup of coffee. Speaking of coffee, I've got my hot Americano here, which is cooling down now, but started out very hot. They can't buy anything. I've dealt with those kinds of clients, and really what happens is we talk to our lender pals and we talk to our local bank and we say, hey, what can we do here? And the bank is like, you need to severely increase your income and severely decrease your debt to income ratio, or decrease your debt, and also stop spending money on ridiculous things, and maybe you'll be able to afford a property. So there's those types of people, and we're going to identify whether or not you are that. And then there are also the folks who say, I can't afford a house. There's no way we can afford a house. I don't have the money for a house. I don't have the income for a house. And then, you look at the numbers and it turns out actually you're in a pretty good position and you can afford a house. You're actually a lot closer than you think. So today we're going to talk to both of you. And if you don't know which one you are, we're going to try to answer that question together. By the way, you're going to see a couple of links in the description here. One of them is going to be to find out if what your home's value is. Click on that. You can go ahead and put your address in and you'll find out how much your house is worth. And then the other one is going to be a link to download a buyer guide, which is if you're thinking about buying, it's going to go over all of the details and what exactly you can expect. And it's free. It's just, you just got to put in your email and you'll get it sent to your email. Okay, so there's two lies here, and I'm going by notes here because I don't want to mess anything up. So, yeah, I'm ready. I've been looking on Zillow for months. Okay. That's not someone who's ready. That's somebody who's been window shopping. That's somebody who's been looking at listings on Zillow. That doesn't mean you're ready to purchase. Okay. And then there's another person who I've actually been speaking with more often than the first, which sounds that may just be a me thing, that might not be industry average, but there's another person who says the same thing but on the opposite side. I am not ready. I see all the houses on Zillow and I know that I can't afford them, and then we go ahead and we look into the numbers, and again, turns out that they are able. The people who think they're ready, but they aren't. Common signs, things that I hear. I'll figure out the money later. I just want to see the house. That's like, if you're a real estate agent, it's like, I haven't gotten a pre-approval yet, but I just really am interested in this house. I want to go see it. That's like a super red flag. That's like if, you're going on a first date with somebody and you're like, hey, can you pick me up? And they're like, actually, we can't use my car. It's dirty. And then you're like, why don't you just go to the car wash? And they're like, yeah, no, it's really dirty. And they don't tell you why. It's like, I don't know about you. That's a little bit sketch. Why don't we put that car through a car wash? Why don't we get a pre-approval? How about that? And then we'll find out what the inside of that house looks like. So there's these people that I was working with at the end of last year on the buy side. Very nice couple. But one of the things they said that stuck out to me was, we haven't figured out our finances yet, but we just want to see some houses. And then once we find one we like, Then we're going to go ahead and figure out the finances. That's the opposite of what you want to do. That's the absolute complete opposite of what you want to do. In fact, I shouldn't be even talking to you yet. I mean, I will, and that's part of my job, is to help you find a lender or answer some of the questions initially, but I would not be doing you the best service possible if we didn't first find out if you could afford the house that we're going to be looking at. Think about it. Like, you should generally know your numbers. You should generally know what your house, your household income is and how much money you've gotten in your savings accounts and what, is coming in versus what's going out. In fact, we talked about that in the buyers episode last time. But what you shouldn't do is call up a real estate agent and say, hey, I want to see this property. Say it's a $450,000 house. And when that agent is like, hey, okay, great, I'm happy to schedule an appointment. Do you have a pre-approval? You say, no, and I'm not going to get pre-approved until I know that I want to buy the house. That doesn't make any sense, because you're wasting your own time if you don't get pre-approved. You're wasting that agent's time if you don't get pre-approved. And then when it comes time to go ahead and get pre-approved, let's say you loved that house. Let's say you walked through that property and it was the house of your dreams. And you're like, great, let's go get pre-approved. And then all of a sudden, you get the note from the lender and says, yeah, we can approve you for a purchase price of $200,000, not $450,000. What happens then? You're SOL. And that agent is SOL. And that's why I won't show houses to a couple who says we're not going to get financing taken care of until we've seen the house. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to go out of my way or and your time to show you a house that you may not be able to afford. It just doesn't make sense. So I've worked with those clients. Are you ready to buy? If the answer is I'm mentally or I'm emotionally ready to buy a house, but I haven't figured out the numbers yet, then no, you're not ready to buy. You got to figure out your numbers. You got to get pre-approved. That's number one. In addition to that, you got to know what your closing costs are going to be. And again, this is something that your agent and your lender are going to tell you about. This is something we're going to sit down and talk about, is what you should expect at closing, because you've got a down payment, but there's often more than that. There might be, especially in New Jersey and Delaware, there might be attorney fees. There's insurance. You got to prepay insurance. You've got to prepay transfer. Well, not prepay, but at the closing table, there's transfer taxes that go into it. In Delaware, you split in 4%. In Pennsylvania and New Jersey, you're splitting 1 or 2%. So these are things you're going to want to know, because not only, okay, let's say you're pre-approved to purchase a $400,000 house, and you have, let's say, 20% ready to put down at $80,000, right? It's not just $80,000 at the closing table. That's your down payment on your mortgage. That's not transfer taxes. That's not attorney fees. That's not miscellaneous fees. That's not credits to the seller for paying X amount, whatever, of utilities because you're closing in the middle of the month. There's taxes because they paid their yearly taxes, but they're selling in the middle of the year, right? These are things that work out at the closing table. You don't just bring an $80,000 check to the closing table. There's more. Now, a little caveat to that also is commission, because, and I don't want to get too deep into it because every situation is a little bit different and it's a negotiating point in a sale, but there are some instances where the buyer pays their agent's commission, and there are some instances where the seller pays the buyer's agent's commission. If you're in a situation where the buyer is paying their own commission, in other words, you're my client and you are going to pay me my commission, and the sell side is not going to pay my commission, you've got to bring that to the closing table too. So there's a lot of different things that go into it as far as finances are concerned that you might not be thinking about. So you want to know your closing costs. You want to know your numbers. Number 3, another red flag when someone says, hey, I'm ready to buy, is that they're ready to buy is I've been looking at listings on Zillow and Realtor.com and, Homes.com, and I've been scrolling through TikTok reels about how to buy. Okay, great. You know everything because you've scrolled through TikTok and Instagram reels, and now you know how to buy a house. Sure. Okay, great. Why don't we have a meeting and we'll sit down and we'll discuss, right? You might have watched I don't know when you're watching this video. You might be watching it the day after I posted. You might be watching it in 2 or 3 years from now, right? So if all you've done is watched TikTok and Instagram videos and a few of my videos and you think you're ready to buy, that's wrong. You're not right. I'm sorry, you're not ready yet. But that's okay, because you're in a great position because you watched all of my content, and so you're very educated, but doesn't mean that you're not ready, or it doesn't mean that you are ready to buy. Because in addition, you need to know your numbers and all of that stuff. And maybe you do. I don't know. We're going to find out. Because by this point, if you're ready to buy, you've watched all of my videos, you've watched plenty of other stuff on TikTok and Instagram, but you've also talked to a local lender, you've gotten a pre-approval, and you're shopping within your budget. Now you're ready to buy. The other thing is that people who are not necessarily ready to buy are people who are shopping for a lifestyle and not thinking of the payment. Like, a lot of people, when they're buying, don't think about, okay, what is my monthly cost going to be? The principal, the interest, the taxes, the insurance, whatever else goes into escrow, the PITI, the mortgage payment, right? How much is that per month? That's a very important question. That is really what determines whether or not you can afford a house or not. Because it might be a $500,000 house, and no, you can't afford to purchase with cash a $500,000 house. But after the down payment and with all of the insurances and interest and everything, maybe you can afford the monthly payment on that, which is 99.9% of purchases anyway. So, you might be thinking, I'm not ready to buy a house because I don't have $300,000, but you don't need to have $300,000. You need to have whatever, 5% or 10% of the total sale price to actually purchase and be able to comfortably afford the mortgage payment. That's where the local lender comes in, right? Because that's a person who's going to be able to tell you, based on XYZ, based on your debt to income ratio, all of this stuff, we can pre-approve you for this much mortgage, which if you bring X percent to the down payment, you're looking at a $2,813 a month payment. And so now you know what you're working with. Now you can look at your household finances, which you've already done, and you can see that, oh, well, okay. Well, I mean, we're already paying $3,200 in rent or whatever ridiculous number you're paying in rent. But you're saying that I can actually purchase a better house that's actually my house and have a lower monthly payment? Yes. Generally speaking, yes. So that's how you know when you're ready to buy. You're ready to buy if you've gotten your numbers figured out, you've worked with a local lender to get your pre-approval, you're not just scrolling through Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Zillow and Realtor.com and all this stuff and just looking at things and saying, okay, now I know that I'm ready. You're ready to buy when you've got the numbers set, when you've talked to an agent, when you know what your monthly payment can be, what you can afford as your monthly payment, when you know your numbers and you know what you're looking for, which is the next thing, then you're ready to buy. Because chapter 2, people will say, okay, we're ready to buy. But then it's like, okay, what's your buy box, right? Or in other words, what are you looking for? Deer in headlights. A house? A house. Any house. I would like any house, please. Okay. School district. Do you have kids? Do you want kids? Do you want to be in a school district? Do you have kids? Do you need more than 2 bedrooms? Do you need more than 2 bathrooms? Do you need a garage? Do you want a garage? Do you need a fenced-in yard? Do you have animals? Do you have dogs that'll run away? Do you need a fence? Do you need an electric fence? Do you want a pool? Do you want to live in a neighborhood? Do you want to live in a house that's attached to the house next to it, or do you want to live in a detached property? Do you want to live in a mobile home? Manufactured home? That's cool, but did you know that you have to pay lot rent? I've talked to a lot of people this way. Hey, we're ready to buy. I've got money. Mobile home is on the market for $160,000. I'm pre-approved for $160,000. This is great. I'm ready to rock. Okay, great. The lot rent for that particular property is $800 in addition to the mortgage that you're going to get for $160,000. Can you afford an extra $800 on top of the mortgage payment? Right? Do you know your numbers? That's how you know that you're ready. Let's move on to group 2. Group 2 is people who think they can't buy, but they actually can. So these are people who maybe have a steady income. They pay their rent on time every month. They have some savings, even if it's not perfect, even if they needed to dip in once in a while for some reason, something went wrong, car broke down, blah, blah, blah. It happens. They're saving. They're paying their rent. They're making a decent income. It's steady. They can lean on it. But these are people who assume they believe in some of the myths we talked about last time. They assume they need 20% down, and they haven't saved that much. They're not ready to buy, quote unquote, or they assume that their credit is just bad without actually checking. Turns out it's in the very high 600s or the mid 700s. Those people can be ready to buy. Ready to buy is an emotional question. It's a financial question, but it's also a logical question. Think about how many families, right? A husband and a wife and their 2 kids. Wife is pregnant. They're going to have a 3rd child. And they're living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment that they're paying $2,900 a month for. They can afford that rent. They're paying that rent, but it's getting tight. Well, they could get a 3-bedroom house, open up the breathing room, maybe get a little bit of a yard, and by gosh, their own driveway for way less of a monthly payment. And they're just assuming that they can't afford a house because what they've been fed this entire time for the last couple of years on Instagram and TikTok and all these places on the news, you can't afford a house because young people in America can't afford a house. That's the headline. But they don't say that the people who can afford to pay X amount in rent and have a steady income and put some money in the bank can afford to buy a house. They can. They just don't need to bring that 20% down. The 20% down scares them, and the news scares people. And if you know me personally and you're watching this video, you know how I feel about the news, how I feel about the media in general on any political side you want to talk about. You know that I pretty much, generally speaking, land on the side of if the news tells you this, it's probably false. That's one of those things. Young people can't afford houses. That's true for young people who work minimum wage jobs and spend every single dollar of their paycheck that isn't on rent going out and having fun and having experiences and all these things, which, are fun and great and are really smart to do right now, but are not necessarily really smart to do when you're 40 and married and maybe have a kid and you're still living in that same 1-bedroom apartment because you couldn't afford anything after that. So yeah, those people can't afford houses, but that doesn't mean every single person in the age group of, 25 to 40 can't afford a house. That's not true. So you are probably more ready than others in your same kind of age bracket if you're just paying your rent, have a decent credit score, have a pretty good income, and have something in the bank. It doesn't have to be 20%. Just doesn't have to be. So let's talk about why people who think they're ready and aren't think they're ready. So there's I call it loud confidence. There's people who are confident. They just, yeah, I could buy a house. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm ready to buy a house. But they're not disciplined behind the scenes. They're spending their money wildly. They're investing in like crypto or whatever else. They bought a bunch of Yeah. I make a really good income and I just spent $1,700 buying Dogecoin. It's like, okay, well, that $1,700 probably would have been a mortgage payment. Probably really would have helped to pay, the transfer tax on your purchase or whatever. It could have, or at least gone a pretty far way doing so. Those are the types of people that are like, yeah, I'm ready to buy a house and I'm not thinking about the finances. Social media is a huge thing. Social media is a huge thing because you see your friend with the keys in front of the house. Hey, we just did the thing, right? And you're like, oh, that moron bought a house. I am also a moron. I can buy a house. It's not necessarily how it works because that moron might be a moron, but they might also have the quiet discipline of paying their rent on time, having a decent credit score, saving a little bit of money, not overspending on things. They're probably married, so they have joint income. I sometimes think about doing this and tell me in the comments if this is something you would be interested in seeing. Those like on campus or, in public debate things where people sit down and it might say like, change my mind or prove me wrong or whatever. And I've thought about sitting down with like a mortgage lender and myself at like a college campus or somewhere where we would get engagement with a sign that says, you can afford a house, prove me wrong, right? Or change my mind or whatever. And because I want to have that debate, I want people to understand that it's not that you can't, it's that you won't. Or it's not that you can't, but it's that you're making bad decisions. Sorry. Like, that touched your feelings? Good. Think I care about your feelings? All right. The real readiness test. Consistency, sustainability, and stability. Okay, let's take a look. Here's a mini checklist for you. I'm going to see if I can't put it here. Let's see. Okay. Mini checklist. Let's see if you are ready to buy. Here we go. You're probably not ready if... Where do I want to put it? Somewhere in here. You can't handle the payment emotionally or financially. You're hoping for a miracle rate or price drop. You're broke after closing. All of your money's gone away after you closed. You're buying to prove something on social media. You don't know your numbers. If any of these apply to you, you're probably not ready to buy. Now, let's erase that, and we'll do a checklist for you might be ready if you've paid rent reliably for years. Your income is generally stable. You have something in a savings account. You're willing to learn instead of guess. You're cautious, but curious. Last checkmark. You've talked to Nick, and he's your realtor. Now, obviously, if you're not in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Delaware, I can't legally help you purchase real estate. But if you have friends in New Jersey, Delaware, or Pennsylvania, I can help them. So I can also connect you with a realtor anywhere you are in the world. I can get you a referral, so don't worry about that. But the point is this. If you basically, in that first checklist, if any of those apply, you're probably not ready to buy a house. In the second checklist, if all of those apply, you are ready to buy a house. You're just scared. And that's okay. It's okay. It's a big, big decision. It's a huge purchase. And then not to mention, okay, I'm ready to buy. It's time to buy. We have to buy a house, or we really want to buy a house where we need to move. Whatever, the numbers are right. The rates went down, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Time to buy. You're going to see 10, 15, 20. I was talking to an agent the other day who said, I've got, in the next 2 days, I have 16 showings with the same people, which is a lot. That's 16 showings in 2 days is a lot, because you got to drive to places, and then how long are you going to stay in each one? So that's a lot, but you're going to see a lot of houses. You might see more than one that you want to put an offer in on, right? Then it comes to negotiating and strategy and whatever else, and we'll talk about that when we're talking business. But if you're scared, if you're a first-time home buyer, you've never experienced this before, that's half of my job too. My job has a lot of halves. Half of my job is coaching you through that and helping you understand the process so that you're knowledge about it, because the killer of fear is knowledge, right? People are fearful. They're afraid of the unknown. People are afraid of what they don't know. When you know something, when you have someone who does know the details and can answer your questions, all of a sudden you're not afraid anymore, because you're now armed with the defense of knowledge, right? So that's something people are afraid of. People are afraid to make the wrong decision. Purchasing a house, while not very risky, there is some risk involved, but that's, again, another half of my job, is helping you understand where the risks really lie and how to kind of mitigate them in the sale process. Like, for instance, maybe you're buying a house. Maybe we found the house, we got an offer accepted, we went through the inspections, and we found something, the water heater is at the end of its legs, right? Or, I don't know, something needs to be repaired. The deck needs to be totally replaced because it's destroyed by wood destroying insects or something, right? Well, what are the risks, right? Do we purchase the property as it is with that issue and just take that on and have a, just wait until the water heater falls apart, or what if instead we talk to the sellers and we get them to replace the water heater? What are the risks there? Could they say no? And what happens if they say no? Right? So there's all of this that kind of goes into it. Again, things people are afraid of because they don't know. It's not because they're not scared of it because they're scared of their water heater breaking. They're scared of it because they don't know what to do to protect themselves from that. It actually is much easier than you think. Okay. So what do you have to do next? All right. What do we have to do next? If you are a person who thinks you're ready to buy, but you're not, stop looking at houses online. Stop. I'm going to say that again. Stop looking at houses online. Start talking to a lender. Stop looking. Start learning. Boil it down to this. If you think you're ready to buy, but you're actually not, stop looking, start learning. And learning is not scrolling through Instagram about listings. It's talking to a local lender or talking to a licensed real estate agent who will then direct you to talk to a local lender because that's the person who's going to be able to educate you the best on your financial situation. Stop looking, start learning. And then build a plan. Okay, I've talked to my lender. We understand where we stand financially. We've got a little bit of work to do. We need to up our credit. We need to up our income. We definitely need to lower our monthly spending here and there. And if we can, pay off some debt. Got to rework some things in the budget. This is where we lose people because honestly, the problem is that people don't want to give up the lifestyle that they're comfortable enjoying. And then those are the people who can never afford a house. It really is that simple. And it's not, I'm not a boomer. I'm not a person who's like, yeah, well, if you didn't buy a $10 coffee every morning, you'd be fine. If you're buying $10 coffees every morning, you actually probably, you're paying, that's a lot. $10 every day is a lot. Because if you average it out, you got, what, 5 for 20 of those? That's $200. That's an insurance payment. That's a car payment. That's a bill. That's a whole bill. If you have a credit card with a $2,000 balance and the minimum payment is $50 and you were putting instead of $50 on it, $200 a month, you'd be getting out of that debt much quicker. That is kind of a lot, but that's not what I mean. Those things add up. So it's not just the $10 coffee every day, but it's also the Hulu, the Disney Plus, the Netflix, and the Amazon Prime Video, and the HBO Max subscription. All of those, that's kind of a lot. So, and there's plenty more too. Every Friday you're going out with your friends and getting hammered and spending $100 on drinks. That's kind of a lot. Not to mention your health. I'm not going to coach you on your health, but every Friday night going out and spending $100 on drinks. If you have 4 Friday nights in a month and you go out 3 of them, that's $300 a month. That's a car payment. That's an electric bill. That's an extra $300 on top of debt that you're accruing. Paying down interest, paying down debt. Think about it, your debt to income ratio if you didn't have your credit card balances. Let's say you look at your numbers and you find that your miscellaneous spending, going out, grabbing a Red Bull every time you pop into the gas station, or a $10 coffee, or going out every Friday or whatever. Let's say that adds up to, I don't know. Let's just say it's $500 a month. For some, that's half. For some, that's double. So figure it out. Do your own math. Okay, I'm talking to the person who's on average spending miscellaneously $500 a month. Okay, $500 a month is $6,000 a year. Okay, $6,000 a year. $6,000 a year, if you're already just miscellaneous, just ancillary spending at $6,000 a year, probably doesn't make or break your budget, right? Because you already spend that. But if you instead took that $6,000 and let's say put it in an ETF that averaged 10% a year, first of all, your money's making money. Secondly, you're getting more for that money than what you're getting by spending it. And third, you can now use that money for a down payment. All of it, 6,000, right, is 3% of $200,000. Yeah. Right? 6,000 is 3% of $200,000. Yeah. So if you're putting 3% down on a conventional loan, that $6,000 that you spent last year going out and drinking or whatever would have been your down payment. Multiply that by 5 years. That's 30,000. Plus it, generated an accrued interest because you had it in a good savings account or a money market account or something like that. And it accrued interest over time, and you're 35, maybe 30 is now 35 or closer to 40. And now you're putting a 20% down payment down on a $200,000 house. But you don't want to have that conversation yet. So for the I can't buy crowd, I can't buy even though you can, and you just don't realize it yet. Those are the people who want to talk to a lender. Both of you want to talk to a lender either way. If you think you can buy, but it winds up that you can't, or you can't afford a house that you want, talk to a lender. And I'm never going to be able to afford a house, or I don't think I can afford a house right now, talk to a lender. Get your real numbers and stop disqualifying yourself before the process even starts. That's the thing that really annoys me, and annoys me in a way that it's not like if somebody says that, I'm annoyed at them. I'm annoyed for them because you're not you're cutting yourself short. You don't have to do that. So here's the thing. I'm going to bring it home. I'm going to close it here. And then we're going to go and address a couple of comments and questions that I've gotten. But let me close it here. I was talking about fear before, right? A lot of people don't make the leap, don't want to buy a house, don't want to get out there and shop because they're afraid. Buying a house is not fearless. It's just about being prepared. It's just about having the knowledge. You will be less afraid when you know more about the process, right? And not buying doesn't mean you're behind. I have worked with quite a few people, and I say worked with because we didn't get to the closing table, but I've worked with quite a few people who are not ready to buy a house yet. We've discovered that over this process. But the thing is, I want to buy a house because my friends are buying houses. You're not ready to buy. You got to know your numbers. You got to know what you're looking for. You have to know what you want. You have to know that you can afford it. That's when you know you're ready to buy. Keeping up with the Joneses, especially on a purchase that is likely the biggest purchase of your life, is not the way to do it. Because you're going to wind up in a place, if you are able to even afford it, you're going to wind up in a place that you resent. You're going to wind up in a place that might have some issues. You might wind up in a place that you're going to lose in foreclosure or whatever else because you weren't prepared, because you didn't make the decision at the right time. Now, hopefully, my job as the realtor and the lender's job as the lender is to get you into a place that you can afford, right? And so that you can stay in it for as long as you want to. Average is, I think, 7 to 10 years right now. But I have seen people buy houses, or maybe they bought a house and they were with their, significant other or whatever. They got married, and then a few years later, they're not married anymore. They need to get rid of that house, right? But they bought the house quickly. They bought the house before they were ready, really. So here's the thing. Close it with this. And like I said, we're going to go address some questions, comments. I want you to share this episode. Share this episode with someone who is talking about buying a house. Whether they are ready to buy or whether they're not ready to buy. They're talking about buying. Send this to them. Share it with them. Tell them to watch it on 2x speed if they feel that, they're not a fan of mine, but I've got some good information here that I think they're going to appreciate. So send this video to anybody who who's thinking about buying a property. Then I need you to hit the subscribe button below. I need you to like the video, and I need you to comment. Any questions, comments, concerns, arguments, anything that you want me to address, I'm happy to do that. Or your experience. I'm interested to hear about it. And reach out to me for, a real conversation. I'm a real human being. I have my phone number is there in the description for you. Reach out, give me a call, send me a text. Hey, Nick, this is so-and-so. I saw your video on buying, and I think I am ready to buy. I'm looking in Camden County, New Jersey, and I had a few questions. Cool. Awesome. Let's set up a time to chat. Right? Because I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm the same guy in person that you see right here. Okay? So with that, thank you so much for watching. Right after this, I'm going to move into the comments and the questions, but I hope you guys have a great night. Share this video with someone who needs it. Like and subscribe, etc. Okay, I wanted to go through a few comments and some things I've gotten questions, comments. So I have a comment here on one of my clips that actually got a good amount of attention. That clip got quite a few views across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts. It was please clean your damn house. That one got some attention. So the comment I got on YouTube was, I saw a listing of a house that posted a picture of a bedroom and there was a pair of men's underwear on the floor. You could smell the stank of that house through the computer. Again, that's my point. You need to clean your house for showings, for photographs. That makes the difference. Why would somebody want to even schedule a tour of the house when there's literally underwear in the photo of the house? It doesn't make any sense. Thanks, Brenda, for your comment. Hate that for you, but I hope you didn't wind up looking at that house. At the very least, somebody could just be like, oh wow, they really don't take care of the house, I'm going to offer way less, and then you're not getting what it's worth. If you clean your property, people will think it's worth more. Someone said on one of my videos that was talking about using a money market account versus using a savings account that your local bank just gives you. I accidentally misspoke. I said your local bank might give you 0.1% back on your money, and this comment, Hawkeye, says 0.1%. My local bank is 0.025%. That person keeps his money in Ally, or their money in Ally Bank, though, which is a great online money market account and gets you a lot more than 0.025 from your bank. And I guess 0.1 is like a high number for your savings. So again, if you're going to save money, put it in a money market account, put it in an online high interest earning account so that at least, you can make a little bit of money on that. I got a lot of comments. I got ratioed on TikTok when I was telling people about how selling a house for sale by owner without using a realtor costs you money because, I explained it in the video, but it's a short clip and there's more context to it. But basically, because you're not getting good photography, you're not getting as many eyes on it, you're not getting the marketing that a realtor is going to bring to the table, and then when it comes to actually purchasing, you're not getting the negotiating power that a realtor is going to be able to give you. So, you're going to spend a little bit of money, whatever it is, 3%, 6%. Some people call it 6% because they're thinking that they have to pay the other side 3% too, which is not necessarily true these days. So either way, you're giving up more on the sales side. That's what I was talking about. But I got ratioed. A lot of people hated that video. They say a nice house sells itself. I don't need Okay. A nice house does sell itself with photography that is high quality. A nice house with shitty pictures and men's underwear in them is not going to sell itself. The problem is there are so few good agents, says Unknown. I agree. I absolutely agree. There are very few good agents. That's why it's all the more important to interview your agents or an agent and work with one who is vetted and good and works for you and not just for that commission. Someone said they agree for some of it. People just take off 6% on a first sale by owner. Might as well max it out on the MLS if you're paying anyway. But who knows how to negotiate? Give me a break. You better take this offer. It's the only one we had in 30 days. I negotiate for a living, and I've never seen a residential listing agent negotiate for a darn. That's a shame. That's a shame. I mean, I negotiate on every deal. I don't know how. I guess if you're priced way too high to begin with and you get one offer, like, hey, you're going to want to take this offer because it's the only offer you're going to get, then if that's the situation, it's because you were priced too high to begin with. So that's on your agent from the get-go. Sorry, buddy. Think about it. That's his username is think about it. I'm saying his, but I don't know. Apparently, great photography, getting a lot of showings, and negotiating is not worth 5 or 6%. Okay, that's all right. User 515-778-5856-469. Whatever you say. In that video, I said save a few bucks. They're laughing about a few bucks. Shocker, realtor doesn't think for sale by owner is good. Who could have guessed? Yeah, well, I never claimed to not be a realtor. And look, I don't necessarily believe that you need to use a realtor in every single home transaction. It's just that 99% of buyers are using realtors, and if you're not represented, you're not represented. Like, it's just you don't have the resources that a realtor does. I'm not saying you must. I'm saying you're gonna want somebody in your corner. That's kind of my argument there. Let's see if we can get a few more. This is one I said, don't renovate, just touch up. Don't renovate, just touch up. You probably don't need to invest $50,000 to sell the house. Maybe just a little bit of paint touch up here and there, maybe fix some drywall that might have been damaged. A couple people have answered that. They said new paint and carpet is usually all that's needed. I would even argue, unless the carpet is like really just gross, you really probably don't even need new carpet. This person says, agree. If you can't do it yourself, hire a stager to help you make a few changes. Agreed. Put a Band-Aid on it till the check clears and screw the next people. That I don't necessarily agree with. Funny, but no, Vash. I wouldn't agree with you there. Please clean your damn house. That one got quite a few comments on it. I sadly had to explain to my mother, says Mr. Grundle, who used to be a realtor, that she needed to get rid of all the family photos and excessive amount of knickknacks when she was selling her home. She fought this hard. The realtor and I had to hold an intervention. So, yeah, okay, I get that. The problem, though, is that, and it's not a problem, it just is the fact of it, is that, especially you're talking about your mom, she's probably been there for 30, 40 years, maybe longer. It's a very emotional deal. It's a very emotional deal for her. She's got all of her stuff, all of her knickknacks. She's collected them. She's proud of them. All of her family pictures. That's you as a kid. That's your cousins and your siblings and your family and passed away folks who are remembered on the wall. So I get it. I understand. But at the same time, if it's a lot, then somebody who has never been in that house, who doesn't know anybody in those pictures, kind of feels a little bit overwhelmed by the amount that they're going to see. I get that. You want to kind of clear it. Plus, if you're selling the house, you're moving, right? So box some stuff up, put some stuff away. We're going to open it up when we move into a new place, But yeah, they said sadly had to explain to my mother, and it's true. It's an emotional experience. This Stacy says, I've been looking since October. I have horror stories. This past Monday, we went into a house. Every bedroom door was open except for one. We opened that bedroom door, and a dog had taken a poop emoji on the carpet. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I wonder if that was a for sale by owner. Not my circus, not my monkeys says, that also goes with selling things online, just generally. My son was trying to sell his telescope. No staging, just a quick photo, nothing. I bring it out, clean it really well, take a few photos, sells within hours. That's 100% true. I recently helped a client, or two clients. They were clearing out some of the stuff from their house, and I was like, I'll post some things on Facebook Marketplace. I took a lot of pictures. I took like different angled pictures. I got all of the dimensions. That goes for the description as well. People read those things. People look at those things. You can answer description. You can answer questions in the description so that you don't have to worry about having to do that in the back and forth, especially if you're selling on Facebook Marketplace. But it's also true on eBay. And eBay makes it really, really interesting and easy too, because eBay has like this AI thing where you can actually put the item. If you take a picture of it on like just a table in your house, you can actually put it on a background of like plain white, and it gives you a shadow, and it kind of looks like it was studio staged, which is really useful too. But that's a good point, not my circus. Ketsilike says, I'm always surprised when listing photos show dirty dishes in the sink. Ugh. Or makeshift shelving in the bathroom that screams there's not enough storage. Great point. Great point. Yeah, think about that. I don't know. I probably didn't mention it, but like, well, the houses that we went through in our last live listing audits were, I think, vacant, so there wasn't anything like that. But makeshift storage in the bathroom, makeshift shelving in the bathroom shows that there's not enough storage. That's a great, great point, Ketsalike. And then somebody says, get those air returns. That means clean your vents. Clean your air returns. Absolutely. I wanted to point this one out. I did an open house a couple of weeks ago in Philly, by South Street. Pretty popular area, pretty poppin' area. But I posted a video that, I was going to be doing this open house. And the question, a couple of the comments were, no parking whatsoever. Hope you like carrying your groceries for blocks. And anyone who thinks moving to South Philly or in Philadelphia is a good idea should go talk to Dr. Phil. I mean, okay, but I get what your point is. So everybody has different priorities and different reasons to live in a place. Most people not most, I shouldn't say most, but many people who live in the city don't really use their car all that often because it's walking distance to everything they need. The multiple couples that actually came to that open house had walked there. So as far as needing parking, that's not really a priority for the people who are shopping in that area. They know it's limited parking. So that's a priority for you, Mr. or Mrs. SJ, but that's not really necessarily what people are thinking about. And user 1608, blah, 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 says anyone who thinks moving to South Philly or in Philadelphia is a good idea should talk to Dr. Phil. Well, they should be so lucky to talk to Dr. Phil. But also, people work there. People have family there. People live there. And this house was not in like a bad part of Philadelphia. There are nice parts of Philly. It's still a large city with like a lot of people. So, I don't know. Everybody's got, their different lists of priorities and things they care about. Let's see if we can pull up one more. Oh, I did get one question texted to me. So, I'm going to pull that up too. So my buddy from college who is, who I really haven't talked to in a while, but saw some of what I was posting on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all that, reached out and said, hey, I saw you're a realtor now. My wife and I are thinking about buying a house, but we don't know where to start. Watch my videos. Well, I texted him back and we had a call and all of this, but the answer to that question, generally speaking for you, if we're thinking about buying a house but we don't know where to start, watch this video and watch the last video that I posted about buying a house. Those are going to answer your question. The answer really is, where are you at financially? Figure that out. What's your household budget? What are your finances like? Blah, blah, blah. Figure that out. Talk to a lender. Then you start shopping. That's the answer. Figure out your money. That's it. Figure out your money. Once you've got money figured out, then it's easy. Like then you get to do the fun part, which is shopping. So that's that. And then another person actually emailed me, and let's see, I can pull it up here. This was somebody who I actually started talking to when I first started in real estate. They had messaged me and they said, hey, I think we're ready now, but do we need to get pre-approved before we start looking? And then they sent a bunch of other stuff. But it's listings that they like. Do we need to get pre-approved before we start looking? Yes. Please get pre-approved. So wow, look at that. Literally in real time, I just got this message. That is crazy. I reached out to an old college friend. Literally, this message came in. This is at 3:27, which is right now. Well, lucky for you, I'm actually looking for a new home to buy. I just got pre-approved for a mortgage last night. So, great. I'm going to be reaching out to this person right now. But moral of the story is, if you're looking to buy, reach out to me. If you're looking to sell, reach out to me. I work in Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Let's have a conversation. Have a great night. Thanks for watching the Realty Check. We'll talk soon.